Morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Almas Tazeen. I am the Senior Researcher and Consultant at the Center for Organizational Excellence Research, and I will be the host for your session along with Dr. Robin Mann. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining in, and we really appreciate your presence. So today's webinar is about an introduction to the International Best Practice Competition and a few guidance and expert tips on how to write your application. In case you have any queries, please note them down so that we can address them at the end of the session during the Q&A round, Q&A session. So with that, let's get started. Yeah, so the organizers for the competition are the Center for Organizational Excellence Research, the Best Practice Improvement Resource, BPR.com, and the Global Benchmarking Network. So we have a prestigious organization like the Abu Dhabi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, along with the Abu Dhabi International Center for Organizational Excellence that administers the Sheikh Khalifa Excellence Award. So, and next slide, please. Yeah, we have a group of supporters, as you can see, from all around the world. So they also provide us with the jury members, and we really appreciate their support that they've shown us and their patronage that they've given us over all these years. Next slide, please. Yeah, so a little brief about the Center for Organizational Excellence Research, which is the main organizer of the competition. So IBPC, the International Best Practice Competition, was founded in 2012. And back then it was a physical event. So we used to conduct events all around the world, like Philippines, New Zealand, India, etc. And then ever since 2021, we have started it as a virtual event. And in this time period of almost a decade, we have had 800 applications from around 27 plus countries. So a lot of rich exchange of information has happened. And some of the best practices, many of the best practices, in fact, you can see hosted on the best practice improvement resource. Next. So the Center for Organizational Excellence Research, Dr. Robin Mann is the director of the Center for Organizational Excellence Research, New Zealand. He's also the chairman of the Global Benchmarking Network and founder and chairman of the International Best Practice Competition. So we have with us Dr. Robin Mann, who will be taking us through the rest of the session, explaining to us the application process and what all should be written in the application. So over to you, Dr. Robin Mann. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Almas. So again, welcome to everybody to this session. This has been designed to help you with your written applications. Just a brief overview of our centre. We've been running many years, and our whole ethos really is organisations to get better at what they do. And we recognise that the fastest way for organisations to improve is to learn from the best practices of other organisations and then add their own ideas and creativity to those best practices to become even stronger. Therefore, all our services are designed around benchmarking and best practices and business improvement. We're founders of the Trade Best Practice Benchmarking Methodology. We assist many organisations to utilise benchmarking. I'm here today actually in Dubai and giving recognition to organisations that use in the Dubai government that have been undertaking benchmarking projects. Obviously, we also administer the International Best Practice Competition, again encouraging the sharing of best practices. And we also do a lot of work advising countries on how to encourage organisations on a journey to excellence. And we also have PhD students doing research into excellence and best practices. One of the things that another service that we provide is the BPR.com, which is a website resource which has got best practices as part of it that you can learn from. And as a participant of the International Best Practice Competition, all your best practices will be ultimately hosted on this website resource, because this is what we're about. We're about sharing best practices, helping organizations all around the world to improve. And as a participant in a competition, you will also be given access to the BPR.com. So that's you get that as part of your participation. There are 4 major awards and competitions. The main one, which it is the main one because it's easier to actually enter, is the International Best Practice Competition itself, because this encourages organisations to submit entries in any aspect of business performance where they've got some good practices, approaches, initiatives that can be learned by other organisations. So you can have a best practice on any aspect of performance, whether it's your processes, services, whether it's how you're trying to change the culture of your organisation, whether it's your leadership, whether it's HR, whether it's introducing AI, whatever it may be, you can apply to the International Best Practice Competition. And then we have also these 3 other awards: the Organisation-Wide Innovation Award, the ESG Excellence Award, and the Global Benchmarking Award. These are it's more specific in a way, looking at organisations which are utilising those particular approaches, whether it's innovation, whether it's ESG or benchmarking, looking at how they sort of integrate and implement those particular methods right across the whole organisation. And we'll talk a little bit more about those 3 other awards later on, but the main focus of this presentation is on the International Best Practice Competition. Whilst we have the International Best Practice Competition, some countries have their own national competition that feeds into the International Best Practice Competition, and some other countries integrate their national competition inside the International Best Practice Competition. So you can see, for instance, India, Iran, and the Philippines have their own national competitions which feed into the International Best Practice Competition. I think the Heart Centre as well. We have one of our guests from the Heart Centre. I think they've won their national competition. Okay, the key thing about the competition is obviously encouraging organisations to share best practices, but we also want to give recognition to encourage organisations to excel. And so the recognition system, IBPC best practice, to ever we are
Excuse me, Dr. Robin. Your voice is cracking a lot, and the screen is also frozen. Your screen.
Okay, I've come back again. Obviously, it's.
Yes.
Is this better?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah. And your screen PPT has gone, so
yeah.
you'll have to share it again.
Yes. Yeah, apologies. I'm staying at a hotel, which I don't like. I was explaining this to Dr. Almas previously. There's so many things wrong with the hotel as well as the internet. So with respect to these star ratings, they're important to know where you stand, but whilst you obviously would like to get the highest star rating possible, I mean, I think you should see it as a participant more of an improvement journey. When the jury assess your practice and they give it an assessment of 5 stars and above, it means that they consider your practice to be of an international standing, which means that your practice will be of interest to other organisations in other countries. When you achieve 4 stars, it's still a fantastic achievement, but it means that we consider, or the jury consider, your best practice is at a national level, not an international level. And 3 stars is also a good achievement. It means competence and professionalism. So that's just an overview of the star rating system, with a pinnacle achievement being 7 stars. So the award prizes are giving recognition to the 7-star best practices. This is the ultimate achievement. but we also as well give a recognition to the practices that have achieved the highest star rating for each of these 21 categories. So often a winner of a category does not get 7 stars. It could even have 5 or 6 stars to become a winner of a category. It means the strongest entry for that particular category. So in fact, there's lots of opportunities to become recognised through the competition. You can achieve 7 stars, or you can be recognised as a category award winner. We also have Pioneer and Excellence prizes, and this prize is designed to encourage best practices to be implemented throughout your organisation. So it's celebrating those organisations that submit multiple practices and they're assessed at a certain level, whether that be above 4 stars, 5 stars, or 6 stars. So the benefits we see are multifold. One is to encourage every organisation to become stronger. Secondly, we provide, recognition. We provide motivation, because it's so exciting when you see the standard of applicants that we receive. And as a participant, you can also listen to all the presentations from all the participants. So that should inspire you, not only in terms of, your own participation in the competition, but also inspire you from learning from them. And that will also enable you to benchmark your practice against others too. We try to have similar practices, delivering presentations in the same webinars. So we're not sure how many applications we're going to get in total, but normally it's anywhere between 60 to 100 applications. And every applicant will submit a written application, but also will deliver a presentation, an 8-minute presentation. And those presentations are given in webinars. And for each webinar, we have a maximum of 7 presentations in those webinars. And as I said, we try to group together presentations on similar topics. So you'll be able to listen to the presentations in your own webinar, but you can also participate and listen to the presentations in all the other webinars too. We're also very good, I think, at promoting all our applicants, all our participants. So we do a lot of work on LinkedIn, social media, making sure that your great work is appreciated, all around the world. We provide a lot of feedback too. So unfortunately, there's not much time to get in your application at the moment. The deadline is the 5th of May. There is some leeway on that. If you can't reach that deadline, you can notify us and we can extend it to the 16th of May. But that will be the final deadline, and you need to notify us if you can't reach the 5th of May deadline. And then after that, we start the presentation round in June. So there's not much time between your written application and the presentation round. So we do encourage you to submit your written application as soon as possible, because we will give you feedback on it to help you to improve it even further. So if you don't submit soon, it means you've got less time to address the feedback that we give you. And as I said as well, we want to encourage you to build a culture of excellence. So the more best practices you submit, and over time, you're going to develop that culture. We also provide verified certificates and badges that you can showcase on social media. We believe they're designed quite nicely, so you can see how they were designed last year. And again, similarly, they were designed in a similar manner this year. So we spent a lot of time on that. And we've had winners from all around the world, from all different countries, as you can see here. And some of the photographs too. My team does travel a lot, so if we are in your city or part of the world after the competition and you've achieved recognition, then we can come and join you for a photograph. We have jury, again, international jury. We have over 65 jury members, and they really decide which webinars they want to be a jury member of based on their expertise. So a quick summary of the timeline. As I said already, the main timeline is 5th of May if you're participating in the International Best Practice Competition. For the other awards, we've just really finishing the first call for applications, and that will finish on the 8th of May for the first call. But for the other competitions, there will be later time that you'll be able to still apply, I think, until July. So there's more time for the other competitions. But for the International Best Practice Competition, the deadline is the 5th of May. But if you inform us, we can extend that to 16th of May. And you can see, following on from the written applications, we have the presentations between the 2nd of June to the 8th of July, and we'll issue the schedule at the end of May, letting you know where when your presentation will be. Then we have a final on the 30th and 31st of July. So what actually happens is that you give a presentation in those webinars, and then based on our jury's feedback, the jury will select the best 14 presentations they've heard, and they will be asked to give a second presentation on the 30th and 31st of July to a different jury, and then that jury will decide on which of those achieve 7 stars. Based on the selection of those for 7 stars, there's then recalibration of all the other participants, and then you'll get your own star ratings in August. And we will also announce a winner of the 21 categories of excellence as well, also in August. Is this when you talk, Almas, or do I still talk?
Yes, Dr. Robin, I'll take over from here.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so hello again. So I'll be just walking you through the application process. So it mainly involves 3 stages: writing your application, delivering an 8-minute presentation, which is pre-recorded. It is not live. And then participating in a 10-minute Q&A session with the jury. So in this session, for the purpose of this session, we'll be speaking about how to write your application. For the remaining 2 stages, that is presentation and Q&A, we'll be, organizing a separate webinar where we will take you through the entire process during that period. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, how to write your application. So the application mainly involves 4 stages: section 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first is on the title and the type of the best practice. And the most important is the second section, which is a 5-page application. And next slide, please. Yeah, so this is how your application section 1 looks. So it gives you the spaces for writing your title. So you don't have to actually get overwhelmed with this section and, think too much about it. Dr. Robin, on the screen, there are random lines, green lines going on. So I don't know
how do I stop that? I don't know. I don't know how that's happening. Must be on the annotate. I don't know how that's happening. Maybe I didn't realize I'm not using on my cursor, so I don't know how it's actually happening, to be honest. I don't know. I've got no.
okay.
Maybe I can share again, but I'll stop and share again if you want.
Yeah, you can just try stopping and again, please start.
I've never seen that in my life before, so I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, it's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Robin, could you go back to the previous slide? We were on that slide, section 1. Yeah. So for this, you just have to present an 8-word title for your best practice. That is so because your title of your best practice can be fit into the badges and the certificates. A very long title is difficult to accommodate. And the categories for your best practice, the main ultimate decision lies with the organizing committee, who decides which category your best practice fits in. So for now, you can just write the top three that you think your best practice fits in, and later, if the committee feels that it fits better in something else, so that will be done. Next slide, please. Yeah, section 2 is the main soul of your best practice. You have to work on this the most. So in the next few minutes, we'll be talking about how you can write your best practice application with the guidance and tips. It involves 6 stages, as you can see. Then there is also a section 4 on submission tips. It's advisable that you go through this section, because it provides with you with the do's and don'ts that you can refer to when writing your application. It will help you a lot on how to organize your information. So please refer to this section. So coming back to section 2, it is divided into 6 subsections: clarity of the best practice, level of deployment, level of innovation, best practice performance, which is the results, best practice evidence and review, and next steps plan. So we'll be going through each of these subsections one by one. Next slide, please. Yeah, how to structure your application. So as we said, it is a 5-page application. It should be written in Calibri font size 10. And now you will be thinking that how much, how can you accommodate so much information in such short limit of pages for 5 5. So, but when you use your page numbers very wisely, like for example, if you use 3/4 of each page for each subsection, you can very well accommodate all the information. And how to do that is you have to be very precise and concise, yet complete in your information that you provide. So yes, it's possible. And you can take the help of relevant diagrams and pictures and illustrations, which narrate the whole story of what you're going to say. So these illustrations help a lot. General tips would be when the jury reads your best practice application, it should be crystal clear to them as in what is exactly your best practice. They don't have to go back and forth in your application, reading it, looking for references and details to find out what exactly is your best practice. So you have to be very objective and factual, giving a clear picture of your entire best practice application. So for that, avoid being ambiguous. For example, if you can see an example over here, if you say the older process negatively impacted the service delivery, it is very ambiguous. It is very elusive. So if you say the same information, like the older process delayed the service delivery to 1,500 customers per month with a 3-day postponement for every customer, it is very factual. It is, very decisive in what you're about to say in the next, application, in the entire application. So, yeah, always always provide month and year for the information, because just writing that in the next few days or in the previous year is again very ambiguous. Always label and reference your visuals. For example, if you're providing an image, label it as 2.1 or 3.1, and then refer it back into the text so that the judges know that, what explanation this text is for, which image. And you can use technical jargons, of course, but then you have to explain it in brief or provide a definition, because the jury may not be from your industry, and avoid acronyms. And if you do provide it, you have to write a full form when you use it for the first time. General tips for don'ts would be avoid repeating the same information and sentences in different sections, because the jury is very perceptive. They have a very good knack of understanding what you're trying to do. So if you repeat the same thing again and again in different sections, it looks very pretentious. So the judges may not like it. So be mindful of, putting the right information in the right section. But if in case you provide, the wrong information in the wrong section, that's okay, because in the feedback, we'll be providing you, guidance on what exactly needs to be done. And always use English as your language of communication, because as I said, it is an international jury who may be, he may not be aware with Spanish or any other language. Yeah, so we'll be going through each subsection one by one right now. So for the clarity of the best practice, These are the questions that will guide you in writing your application. So if you follow this theme of questions, you can write your application very well. So next slide, please. So we'll be giving you a set of, a very good example and a not very good example throughout this session, so that you can you come to know that what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So if you look at the left part, this is a very good example of how a best practice should be defined. It is a very complete and wholesome definition of a best practice. It starts with our best practices, or the best practice describes, because it conveys to the judge, it gives an indication to the judge, okay, that this is the best practice, because your description is the backbone of your entire best practice application, because that is the section which decides the other parts. Like, it is the main connecting link. Every time you provide any information in the other sections, it will always be in the heads of the jury that, okay, you had provided this definition, and based on that they have to decide on the other criteria, the star rating for the other criteria. When you look at the right side, the definition is very incomprehensible, and you cannot actually gather or fathom anything out of it. It is very complicated, and it does not give you any objective information. So the definition of the best practice is very important. Next slide, please. Yeah, the scope and boundaries of the best practice are also very important. Scope as in what was included, what was a part of your best practice, and what was not a part of your best practice. For example, if we take, suppose there was an initiative in your HR department. So were all the human forces a part of your best initiative? For example, were full-time, part-time, and contract workers also included in the initiative, or it was only for the full-time employees? So this is just one example. And out of scope as in finances, financial the financial landscape of the initiative, was it considered, was it a consideration of your best practice, or was it not in the scope of your best practice? So similarly, boundaries, what boundaries, what were the considerations that your leadership thought that would be a part of your initiative, and what would not be a part of your initiative. General tips for description would be, here the context is very important. So when you say that there was an initiative or a project or a design, product design or service that was introduced, what was the context? Were there any challenges that your organization was experiencing prior to the implementation of the best practice that triggered or motivated the leadership to think that, okay, we need some, a change in the process or something like that? Because when you introduce a best practice, there has to be some, motivation for the leadership. So it is always very important to provide context. For example, if there's a digital transformation project, was it just introduced because everybody is doing it, or was it introduced because there were some internal issues going on and you thought that a digital transformation would be a very good, change? So yeah, the context is important for the opportunities and challenges. Make sure that you provide, whether it was an operational or a managerial practice you have, or it was something else, like was it a product or a service that was introduced as part of a change management process? So you have to be very clear about that. Limits and boundaries, as I already said, and do not go overboard by providing irrelevant, points. As I already told you, the jury is very perceptive. Next is level 2.2, a level of deployment. So this, again, these are the questions that will help you write your application. Here is a very good example of how the entire project was conceptualized. So this section involves everything that your organization or your team did from the stage of conceptualization to implementation. It should be a very systematic organization of the chronology of the events that happened. What did you do to run the whole show from the start to the end? So that is your deployment. So this is a very good example which shows from 2010 till 2023 what exactly they did, what were the main decisions that happened in each stage during over all these years. So you have a process chart or a flow diagram is a very good, or a table with the necessary details is a very good approach. Next. For the level of deployment, if you provide the resources that were used for the deployment, that would be a very good approach again. You can, like for example, in this, on the screen, you can see how this organization used social media, public awareness campaigns, and, different training and marketing resources that help them to, clearly manage the change that was happening in the organization. So whatever resources in terms of technology, human resources, any other, finance, anything that you used to help your organization move forward in the initiative will be helpful. Avoid general blanket statements when you are presenting your deployment. For example, in this designing the initiative, it is written the initiative was carefully planned to align with the organization's transformation goals. And the timeline is saying that it was a detailed timeline of implementation stages, but then there is no information of the, timeline or the pilot phase. So general blanket statements should be avoided, and we have to be very factual and objective. Next. General tips for deployment would be, again, if you have started something in the past, like two years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, last year, you have to be, you have to provide information on what is the current stage. It is still ongoing, or it is, it will be completed in the near future. So what is the plan for, the execution if it is not complete yet? And don't focus solely on the end product or the service or the technology. What was your journey throughout? What led you to that product or the service is more important than the product or actual service itself. So yeah, in case you think that we are going too fast, we're really sorry, because there's a lot of information that we have to cover, and you will be getting a PDF file and this recording of this presentation. So yeah, our team will be emailing you that, so you can refer to this PDF and the recording when you write the application. 2.3 section is on innovation. This section highlights the wow factor of your best practice. What makes you stand out amongst your contemporaries, and your organizations with similar practices. So you have to, next slide, please. So when the judges read your innovation section, they don't have to force themselves to believe that yours is the best practice. It has to be right in front of their eyes that this is the best practice. So how will you do that? You will provide distinguishing features that makes your best practice, separate. It gives that, prestige to your best practice than your, contemporaries. So for example, if you see on the left, they've given a very clear, process flow chart of your before and after. So this was like 16 to 19 steps, whatever process they had earlier involving like 19 steps, but right now it is only 3 steps. So this is a very good example of comparing your old and your new process, and how you reached that transformation, explanation for that. And on the right is it is too much information, but then it is not giving you anything which makes you stand out, or makes you, that what was your recipe for success in your innovation. It does not provide anything, any explanation. It is not even clear. So the general, you can go through these points, but then when we as assessors see applications, what makes us happy as assessors is when we see benchmarking done with your, with organizations within your country, outside your country, international comparisons that you do for your best practice. So for example, if you see if you're introducing one initiative in sustainability, so what is, what are similar organizations in your country or in your region or in internationally they are doing, and what is their, performance metrics compared to yours. So if you present that data, that will be really a very good impressive factor for the judges. So, and I think the other points, they are very self-explanatory. When you read them, you'll come to know. And for the next part of the presentation, Dr. Robin will be taking us to the best practice for performance that is a results, and we'll be explaining you about it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you
Over to
very
you.
much. So performance is critical, really, if you're targeting to be recognized at 5 stars, 6 stars, or 7 stars. You've got to show strong results. Therefore, as a result of implementing that practice, your performance has improved. So you really need to be able to show before and after performance. So if you're thinking of what best practices to submit to the competition, it's often useful to think backwards and say, you know, what good results do we have inside our organization? And then what is generating those results? And then the practices or systems or approaches that are generating those results are useful then to submit to the international best practice competition. If we look at the performance section, it's asking you to share both non-financial and financial performance. So you need to think about, you know, what are the operational metrics that are specific to your best practice, but also how is that helping your organization from a financial perspective? Either it could be money saved for your organization, or it could be additional revenue generated, or as a public sector organization, it could mean that you're saving time for your citizens, which in essence is saving money or saving people's lives, or you know, or helping to improve the environment as well, which you know is providing health benefits. And again, there's a cost and associated with that. What's most important here for performance metrics is to make sure they're understandable as well. So showing information in a graphical manner is most important. So ideally, you'd be showing what the performance was before you introduce the best practice, and showing how it's improved over time. So it could be showing how you've improved on a monthly basis, or a quarterly basis, or a yearly basis. But this also helps to give the impression to the jury that this practice then will be sustainable for the future. Yeah, and again, make sure that the metrics you're showing, the performance data you're showing, is relevant to the best practice. So some applications, they just show lots of graphs, lots of data, but then the jury are thinking, you know, is this data really related to the practice or not? So again, you've got to make sure that what you've written as the description of your best practice in the description section is what is delivering those results. There should be alignment between the two. So here is some examples. Great example here of one showing graphs of performance, showing some trend data. So this is the sort of thing you should be looking for. So in the top left-hand corner, it's showing performance over time. And then it's a simplification of that in the graphs at the bottom as well, showing how performance has improved between 1 year and the next. Well, we have an example on the right-hand side where, in fact, they were not providing any data whatsoever and just saying their performance had improved. So, you know, it's very difficult to give a high level of recognition to organizations that don't provide good data. Providing tables is okay, but it's not great. So graphical information is far better than providing information in table format. Graphical information helps to ease the understanding of what's happening over time, where it's far harder to work that out from tables. And I think I've covered most of these points here, and you'll be able to read them all later. So let's move on to the next slide. Then we look at best practice evidence. So whilst you can demonstrate results, we're also looking for additional evidence that this is a best practice. Therefore, have you compared your performance against other organizations? Did you utilize benchmarking when you develop your best practice? Or are now other organizations learning from you? Or have you achieved some peer recognition for your practice? So there's a whole host of reasons that you can provide here of why you consider your practice to be a best practice. So if you can provide benchmark data, as shown in this example on the left-hand side, that's great, where you can show that performance data. Typically, that's hard to do. So the majority of best practices submitted to the International Best Practice Competition won't have comparative data. If you have it, it's a bonus. The reason why most don't have it is because it's often very difficult to find. But you still should be able to show, ideally, that you have been trying to learn from other best practices or provide some evidence why you think yours is a best practice. This example here not only is providing that benchmark data comparison, but it's also showing how their processes compare to another organization's processes. So it's actually comparing CHA's approach to how it addressed COVID through introducing these screening centres, drive-in screening centres, and showing how their approach, the United Arab Emirates approach, was better than the approach in Korea. So they could clearly demonstrate how the differences in their processes in comparison to another organisation. So it gives greater confidence to the jury that this is potentially a best practice. Again, if you've already got some peer recognition for your best practice, that's great, but it's not always the case, because often it's too new what you've implemented and you've not submitted it to other prizes or for other awards. So we're not expecting every best practice to already achieve some peer recognition, but if you have, then please share it with us. But again, make sure that peer recognition is relevant and specific to the practice you're sharing in international best practice competition. Sometimes organizations share all the awards and recognitions they've ever received, and they're not related to the specific best practice, or only loosely related. If you do that, you're more likely to have a lower star rating, to be honest. It annoys the jury. The jury think you're trying to confuse them, so they don't appreciate that. So make sure you're always transparent and honest throughout the application. And I think I've covered this information here, so let's move on to the next slide. I want to make sure we've got time for some Q&A at the end. The final area that you're assessed on is the review stage. We just want to make sure that this practice is just not a one-off, it's going to be sustained into the future. So we want to see that you're going to be continually reviewing and refining it. So if you can provide additional information here that you do have a review process in place, that you are thinking of deploying it perhaps elsewhere in your organisation, that you've got future plans to improve it even further, then please do share that information. And to do, again, as Almas was saying previously, try to make your application as factual as possible. So if you are going to be improving your practice in the future, then provide a timeline and some dates of when that is going to happen. So again, here we're showing an example here on the right-hand side, showing where there is that timeline in place, and another one which hasn't done that. So section 3 is after addressing all those 6 criteria, you obviously need to provide your personal details and organization's details, otherwise we won't know who you are. Yeah, and I guess T is just reiterating at the end of this presentation, the whole purpose of filling in this application and participating in the competition is to enjoy it. You know, it's designed to be fun. It's, yes, you're sharing your work, but you've got an opportunity to learn from other organizations too. And we provide a very supportive environment. As I said, we also have the other competitions as well. So whilst the deadline for the International Best Practice Competition is the 5th of May, which I say we can extend to the 16th if you let us know, we also have these other awards where we have a later deadline and an opportunity for you to participate if you're interested, and you'll see that information on the website. The entry fees are as follows. It's as you can see, for the International Best Practice Competition, it's $425 US. For some countries, it's slightly less because the relationship with our partners and the ability to pay is less in some countries than others. But generally, that's a standard price around the world. We put an awful lot of effort into the competition. We provide a lot of feedback, and to bring to you these experts from around the world to assess your application is not an easy matter. So we do our best to provide you with the best service possible. With that, I thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. I hope we didn't put you all to sleep. I hope we have a couple of questions. Is that all clear? The process clear to everybody? All clear. Thank you, Shema. Does everybody know what best practices they'll be submitting at the moment, or they're still debating that? The other thing to bear in mind is that because you're in essence quite late in this process, we've been promoting the competition for quite a long time now. Say the deadline 5th of May will come up soon. Say we can extend that to the 16th of May at the very latest. If you're still struggling for time, don't worry too much. You've not got to submit the most perfect application. You just got to submit an application. Because remember, my team will provide feedback with you. So if there are gaps in your application, we'll identify them, and you'll have some more time to address those gaps before the presentation stage. So don't just give up and say, I've got no time to do this. I suggest just submit something.
Dr. Robin, coming back to your question that you just asked, that what are the teams thinking that which best practice to submit? I would just like to add that in case you're thinking that what you should submit, you don't have to submit a revolutionary best practice that the world will change with it. No, it can be a very mundane thing that every organization is doing, but how you are doing it, what is your journey, what is your story, how you're doing it differently than others is what is a best practice. So don't have to think too much about that we don't have anything avant-garde that the minds will be blown away. It's not like that. It can be a very simple thing that everybody does, but then how you're doing it differently is what stands out, and what are your performance results in this, that is important. So there are certain sections which are the decisive ones, so you have to pay attention to that. Yeah.
Okay, if we have no questions, it just leaves me to say thank you so much for your time. We wish you good luck, and if you do have any issues or problems, then please drop us an email, and we'll help you to the best of our ability. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.